Let me pop this in the holder. Get that thing set. There we are. Let me kill that light back there. Make it a little bit nicer. Uh, we are. Yeah, I like that better. So, let's talk a little bit today. So we get a few people here. And while we're waiting on people to show up, I am rocking a Moab Reptile shirt today. Check that out. If you don't know them, you should check them out. I love wearing other people's shirts. Plus, they buy a higher quality shirt than mine. It's way more comfortable. So you'll see us do some filming in that. How's it going, Corey? But today is the day that my usual happy-go-lucky self has to bring you some pieces of bad news, right? Um, and so that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, it's gonna. So today's gonna brace yourself. Today's gonna be a little bit of suck. However, we're gonna share some stories with you about somebody that maybe you know, maybe you don't know, and if you don't know, I'm gonna tell you how you can get to know them, even though they're going to be gone. So the reptile hobby, it lost somebody this week. And there's a lot of people in this hobby whose names that maybe you haven't heard of. Like, not everybody's Brian Barczyk, right? Not everybody's Kevin from Nerd. There's a lot of people involved in this who do a lot of work in the background, who have a real passion for the animals they work with and do great things. So what I want to know, and you can tell me right here in the comments because we're going to talk about it openly, is have you ever heard, it's an older channel, it posted sporadically in the last few years, but it used to be pretty consistent, and it was ran by a young kid, a reptile channel called Classy Herps. And you're talking, a 14-year-old, I want to say, was doing that. But that was 10 years ago. So has anybody ever run across anything from Classy Herps? He had some videos that really did really well. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of views about dubia roach colonies, bearded dragons. He did some exanthic ball python stuff on there. He did a lot of cool stuff. And he started at a very, very young age, which is a very brave thing to do because when you put yourself on social media at such a young age, and you're opening yourself up to be told all kinds of good and bad stuff about yourself, right? Like, how many people want to tell me how fat I am and shit like that? Like, I don't already know. But you get that. And he did that. And then on top of that, he went to Kansas State University, and while earning his degree there, he decided to still work with reptiles. And he decided to make that his full-time job. So rather than chase something that can make more money because you got a piece of paper, he was working reptiles. He became part owner of Manhattan Reptile World, was instrumental in our zoo setup and care for our zoo animals, especially our monitor lizards. Some of our big constrictors. You've seen him in Olympus Reptiles videos, including our one that we had one with him with the rattlesnakes, which he was not really comfortable with. And then we had one with Colin with large constrictors, so which he was very comfortable with, which we were learning from him on. So here's the rub, guys. Here's the bad news part. So this last week, Colin lost his life. And it's not something where, like, if one of the people that everybody saw all the time, it sent some shock waves. Here, it's not somebody you've seen all the time. But let me tell you, that Colin's life, a lot of it was dedicated to this hobby. A lot of it was dedicated to this trade. He was somebody who wanted to make his life about animals. It didn't mean he wanted to be rich, right? It is a bummer. He wanted to live his life just to make a living and be around animals every day. That's what he wanted to do. And with that, he had started a family. So he does leave behind a young family, including a young daughter who he'll never get to see grow up, and she's not going to get to know her father. And that hits home for me a lot because, I don't know if how many of you know this. I lost my dad growing up. Now, I was a lot older than his daughter was. His daughter, she'll be lucky to have a few broken memories of him because of her age. Where I was early teens when I lost my dad. So I understand what it's like to grow up missing that piece of yourself. Now, I had an awesome my parents were divorced anyway. So, my mom and dad, my mom had remarried, and I had a really awesome stepfather who was like a dad to me, who I loved dearly. So this isn't a sad story for me, but there's still a part of you that you miss, that you wanted them to be there to see you do things. You wanted them to be there to see you graduate. You wanted them to be there to see you be successful. You wanted them to be there to tell you you're an idiot when you screw up. And his daughter's going to miss all that, and my heart breaks for her because I know what missing that is like. So that has happened, and we have started. It wouldn't let me write a thing here, so I'll go in after the video and I'll add it. But we already have a GoFundMe that's set up. I'll put it in our community tab as well as here. It's on our Facebook. It's on the Manhattan Reptile World Facebook. It's on all of those things, so it's pretty easy to find, right? So if you do want to help out with his fiance and their child, there is a way for all of us to do that. Any amount helps. It's not about donating the most. It's about, a bunch of small donations are just as good as one large one, right? So we want to set that and try to generate as much as we can to help them with just cost and just those things moving forward when it's going to be a much smaller family. Somebody mentioned his age. I guess I should mention that too. He was all of 24 years old. I want you to think about that. 24 years old, even though this kid, and that's what he really is, a 24-year-old, it's a kid, right? I get to say that now, I'm 40. By the way, I just turned 40, so I get to call 24-year-olds kids now. It's one of the benefits I get. He ran into his speed bumps in life, like we all do. But he also was an involved father. He was raising that. He had owned a part of his own business and still did own a part of his own business, had started a separate business, kind of like what we do with breeding, right? So he was doing that as well. And all of these things, were going on that he was doing when he wasn't the 24-year-old kid that sat at home on mom's couch, man. He was living on his own and taking care of shit on his own. Manny, we're talking about Colin Cudney from Classy Herps is who we're talking about. Also from Manhattan Reptile World. And I watched that kid for years work his ass off. So, yeah. And there's a lot of things I owe to him on knowledge. I learned a shit ton about monitor lizards. I learned a lot about keeping animals that I don't traditionally keep, because working in the shop, like your bearded dragons and things like that. And the proper ways to do some of those things that, I wasn't overly versed in. I learned a lot from him, which, takes a lot, by the way, when you're old and you're learning from a young guy. But if you're old, open your brain to them young dudes, because sometimes they know some shit, right? Sometimes they don't know shit, but sometimes they know some shit. So you got to filter it. So, yes. So they don't take a percent. You can give them a percent, but you can also elect not to. I did the GoFundMe instead of using PayPal because I have some other charities I'm already doing through my PayPal, and it was just easier to keep it separate, and it was also easier to keep it on the up and up so everybody can see exactly what it is and exactly how much is going to go. You can choose to give GoFundMe a percentage, but you can also choose to leave them none. That's up to you. PayPal takes a percentage too, to be real honest. If you send me money through PayPal, they take a percentage. That being said, if you want to send me something through PayPal and you want to say, hey, I want this to go to Colin, what I'm going to end up doing with that is taking it and sending it to the GoFundMe. That way that running total kind of keeps up, although the first thing from there is just us making one to kind of get it started. So that is what's going on. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. I wanted to see if anybody here had an interaction that they wanted to share about Colin. And in that time, I will share some that I've had with you as well. So that way, it's just my way of remembering somebody who I enjoyed being around most of the time. And I thought had a bright future. I thought could do, I always say could, because you never know what would happen. I thought could do great things in this hobby and could be successful in this hobby if he stayed the course, and yeah, so there's that. So a couple things I'll share with you about Colin is one, he was a ball python breeder. His big love was probably monitor lizards. I think he liked them more than anything. And he was super stoked about a set of green tree monitors we had for the zoo. That was like one of his favorite projects we had in there. He just green tree monitors. He also wanted some blue tree monitors, but we found the green tree, so he ended up with those. And I didn't know shit about those animals. I'm like, green tree monitor, of course I'm thinking monsters get big. They stay small, things like that. So yes. Oh, someone said that. Oh, Caleb. So for those of you that don't know, Caleb's the current guy who works at the shop. He kind of took over for Colin there when Colin went to do more of the breeding stuff and shows that he was doing. So you may have met him at shows running for Manhattan Reptile Planet, which is separate from Manhattan Reptile World. But he says that he has a few good ones. His favorites when he got those baby quails for anacondas. They ended up growing so fast they were flying over the shop. Yeah. So what happened was we we had these captive bred anacondas that we were selling. You saw us post them on here. We're out of them now, I think. But one of the ways to get anacondas started feeding is quails. Quails are not, they're more close to what they would find where they're at. So baby quails do a good job as a little baby bird, but they didn't eat them fast enough. They were getting big, and we eventually had to feed them off to other things. So there was that. Yes, I also remember he got this. It was a reticulated python when I first got to know him. That it was named Jake, and it was a young one, very young. It was this lavender retic, and I think that was probably the snake that I remember him being the most proud of. I remember lavender retics from way back in the day when they were on the cover of magazines. Oh, who passed was Colin from Classy Herps and Manhattan Reptile World. That's who he lost. Was one of our owners, and he was so excited about it. It was a beautiful snake. This baby retic, and he babied that thing. I mean, that thing got spoiled ass rotten, fed whatever it want, and he raised Jake up to full breed size and was using him for that purpose. Uh, but that was a snake that I knew, no matter how shitty of a day he may be having or whatever might be going on, if he got out Jake, his face changed. You know what I mean? It went from I'm having this crappy day and I'm covered in snake shit and I got this much work to do and I've had this many customers, I haven't got anything done. And he could pull that out and just everything was better, right? So I remember that. I also, the Gila monsters were a project of his he was extremely excited about when we got the Gilas. Now, we haven't ever got them to breed yet, but getting them set up and getting them running and doing all of that, he loved his Gilas to the point that none of us really messed with the Gilas because you didn't want to throw off what he was doing, right? Um, so Colin was very much into those. Um, so, and then, I remember yeah, Classy Herps. I remember when he was having his daughter, and when he first found out he was going to be a dad and how excited and scared shitless he was all at the same time, but then as it came closer to time and as it actually happened, how much he would talk about that and how much that meant to him. And, it was a life-changing thing. And he very quickly went from a kid who was a 24-year-old kid worried about, everything on his own to worried about, hey, I have a family I have to take care of. And that needs to be a driving focus in my life is taking care of my family. And seeing that gear change in somebody that young, it doesn't always happen. There are people who have kids and they're just still complete jackasses, right? And there are people like me who don't have kids and we get to stay being complete jackasses. Uh, but he made that gear change and bought into it 100% and wanted to do right by his family, wanted to make sure his family was taken care of. And he carried that weight. Sometimes that was a big weight to carry, but he did carry that well. So I wanted to share that story with you. But that is really what today's about. So I didn't want to come on here and talk happy-go-lucky stuff and pull out a bunch of animals today. I wanted to come on here and tell you that if you don't know who Classy Herps is and you don't know who Colin Cudney was, man, take you 10 minutes, search it on YouTube, right? Pull up Classy Herps and watch this kid. Watch this kid and see the passion he had and understand that even though maybe you had heard or maybe you hadn't, we as a hobby in the reptiles in general, especially Kansas reptiles, suffered a loss today. or not today. This happened last week. I was on the road and now I got around to be able to post about it. And that's going to be felt. And I know it probably happens every day, and not everybody is going to get to be heard about. But in this case, it's a friend of mine, so you're going to hear about it. At least 70 of you are. And he will be missed. He'll be missed by Manhattan, the city itself, as far as the reptile hobby goes, coming in, finding him in the shop. He's going to be missed by his family. He's going to be missed by those of us that knew him. And I can tell you, too, in my travels throughout the state, when I would go talk to other people in the state of Kansas, almost all of them would have something good to say about him. I didn't ever really have anybody that would stop me and tell me that they had a bad interaction or something terrible about Colin. It just didn't happen. It was always, hey, this kid, I think he's going to do well. Or, he really helped me with this. Or just kind of an infectious personality when it came to reptiles. So it is a loss. It will be a loss that it's going to be a hole I don't know how we'll fill, to be quite honest, in the state of Kansas. So that is what I got for you today. A little bit of sad news, right? But we will talk about a brighter topic. So I do want to cover one thing. I want to show you something we did just do. Because while we're raising money for Colin, which we are, we're also raising money for another cause, which is our local zoo that we started raising money for a while back. And today, we just sold, right before I came online here, we sold this girl right here, which is about 1,088 gram pastel, 100% het SK Exanthic female. So we just sold a really nice female to jumpstart some Exanthic projects. And with doing that, we raised over $400 for the charity we're working on, which we've been working on for a while, which is it's going to be an improvement to the Manhattan Zoo for our tigers, our sloth bear, and our Amur leopards. So I wanted to share that with you, and that was done through our Patreon, which if you're not on, you should go check out, because this was actually bought by one of our brand new members, right? Hey, there they are. Speaking of that, its code name was Snickerdoodle, named by the person we got it from. It was a situation we had to get a collection because of, unfortunately, a rat allergy. Yes, and it is a Sunset Zoo that we're raising it for. We're going to try to donate to them as long as they're still doing it when it comes. If not, we'll just donate it to them anyway. They can do something else with it. So, that snake is one we just sold there on Patreon. So there are still good things happening. There is, I promise. Carpet eggs are doing well, and we're expecting more eggs in the very near future. We also have got this place insulated much better after the last major cold snap, which has made our overall ambient much nicer, which I think will lead us to more success over the next few years. I don't know how much we'll see it this year because we're through breeding season, but we'll definitely see it next year. All right, guys, that is all I've got. Unless you've got a topic you want to talk about, or you want to share a story about Colin, and maybe something that you saw that he helped you with through, say, YouTube, like, I don't know, maybe you'll watch how to breed dubia roaches and you started your own dubia roach colony, because he was actually one of the larger producers of dubia roaches for a while in the state. That kid was shipping dubias out like in high school, like out across the country, which is pretty awesome. Somebody asked how the cars are doing. The cars are doing fine. I mean, I haven't been in them. It's been way too cold, but I might get one out here soon. And yes, Willie will still be at the shop. So Willie is our large water monitor. He'll still be there. Everything that's there is still going to be there. Okay, cool. So you have second snake ever from Colin and David, which would be Dave Karnowski on Colin. So yeah, so you know who Colin is, and it's a big loss. And Colin did all the work there at shows for them. Like, he was the main face of that, and Colin's a good guy. So that just sucks all around about that loss. But all right, guys. Well, seeing nothing new, I am going to go ahead and hop off of here. Thank you so much for watching. As soon as this video finishes doing its thing, I will add that link here, and I will also add that link on, I guess it's here and on the community tab so you can find it. Thank you very much. We'll catch you all next time.